This is Jill Davis, and this is California for God and Country. This show is to bring California into America, or rather, America into California. California is kind of out there, and because it was the last of the frontier, it's never really fully been brought in. So this show is a show where we're bringing America to California. And because California was Spanish for so long, we write this song and proclaim Jesus for California. And it says, sing California, sing hallelujah, sing to Yeshua, 'cause the devil can't rule you on the King's highway. No, the devil can't fool you on the King's highway. El Camino Real, it's a brand new day. Todo es posible on the King's highway. El Camino del Rey, King of glory, strong and mighty, come into California. We proclaim, King of glory, strong and mighty, come into California. Oh, California, you're weak and shaky, so come in to God and country, one nation under God. Yeah, California for Jesus. Yeah, Jesus, we cry out, come, reform California. Take it away from this statist, big gov state. Today, I homeschooled my kids, and America really has a historic Christian educational method. It really has a history of Christian Judeo methodologies and ways of looking at the world, a Christian worldview. That's really America's traditional, foundational worldview. And then what happened? The 1600s, you know, the Puritans, the Pilgrims all settled in the East, and then we began the Constitution that codified Christian ideas of man and government. And then we had we won the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, to be able to do that by prayer and by the churches involved. And then came the Civil War, and we fought against that boll weevil. And then what happened with the expansion of America? Even though we were the most literate, we were becoming the most wealthy, by the end of the 1800s and at the beginning of the 1900s, we started falling away from our original foundation. And it was because in the late 1800s, of course, we know Darwin was in the late 1800s, and Karl Marx, and these ideas really started coming in to our worldview as a nation. And I wanted to go into some of those things. There are a number of principles that are American. And the very first one is a principle about the universe. It's the idea that each person is made in the image of God. Therefore, they're an individual, because God is the greatest individual, or the most unique, or the most matchless individual. And so everything he makes, whether it's a sunset or a rock or a time or whatever it is, a person, each one shows his inimitable uniqueness, that there is no one like our God, and the Creator makes each person unique as an individual. So that's the first principle of America, which was different than collective ideas in other countries. The second principle was, if you are unique and you're yourself, then you're self-governed. You have an internal world that makes choices about what you're going to do. And the third principle is that you need Christian character in order to know how to govern yourself. And then the fourth principle, there are three more I won't go into today too much, but these are non-optional universe principles that are in reality that our founders understood when they said, these truths are self-evident. And the fourth one that James Madison so clearly elucidated was the idea that your conscience is your most sacred property, and what you consent to is your most sacred property. Whether you omit to do something or whether you do something, that's your sacred property. And then out of your conscience comes how you handle your body, how you handle your clothes, your cars, your farm. And so these were American ideas, whereas the eroding that happened in the late 1800s said that we're not made in the image of God. We come from an evolutionary slime plus time, and that man is not originally bad like the Christian worldview of original sin. He is basically good, and with humanitarian efforts, he can help fix everything. And so out of that, you get in the end eugenics and Planned Parenthood and universal health care and big government. Whereas in the original America's ideas that are based on God and the Bible, you get free markets where you get people that can develop themselves and do great things and become free of big government, free of pressures put on them by the group. Whereas this other idea is built on that you must come under the group, that group identity. And that whatever the authority is of the government and whatever the cultural trend is, that's the authority that you're to come under. Whereas the historic Judeo-Christian worldview in America was that God made us and gave us inalienable rights for each one of us to have moral conscience, and that it's our responsibility as an individual. So think about these things. I mean, I keep trying to think about them because the enemy, he really wants us to be fearful and come under the group instead of doing what God is telling each one of us to do. And if we would do what God is telling each one of us to do, that brings God's providence upon an area and a nation. So I wanted to sing this song. It says, stand in the holy place. Oh, guard your heart in the Lord, 'cause soon you'll see His true and righteous face. So today, fight the good fight of faith, and remember, watch and pray. Oh, stand in the holy place. Yes, guard your heart in the Lord, 'cause soon you'll see His true and righteous face. So today, fight the good fight of faith, and remember, the thing that was so beautiful about our founding was that there was godly men, and one of them was Noah Webster, and he's called the father of our education here. He wrote the blueback speller that all the pioneers used that show them how to have a standardization for spelling for American English instead of, kind of the Italian and the Spanish, and, they needed a standardization. And so that's what Noah Webster gave us. And then in the back of the book was all the governmental documents like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And this is a picture of it right here. And so this was his life work. It was called The American Dictionary of the English Language. And he got saved radically. And so this is what we need to use in our schools and our libraries, because whoever controls language and makes up different definitions creates confusion and ambiguousness in the, with communication. So what's so beautiful about this dictionary is that, it doesn't have modern words. You'll need to go somewhere else. But basic, fundamental words, he will give the exact etymology of it, where it comes from, because he knew all these languages. And then he'll give the scriptural relation to it, where it occurs in the Bible, maybe 2 or 3, and then maybe he'll show it where it happened in good literature, maybe Shakespeare or Milton. So you can look up the word marriage in this, or education, or redemption, or any of these things, and you will get the biblical viewpoint. So this is the kind of thing we want. It says there that if you will study your language and really understand what words that you're using, that will help society. So they do this thing we did in homeschool, called 4Ring. It says, first, you research a subject. It could be anything. It could be rocks. And then you find out all sorts of things about rocks. And then you look them up in the Bible for where they occur in the Bible. Jesus is my rock. And you learn what the etymology of that word is. Is it Sanskrit? Is it Greek? Where does it come from? And then you look it up in the Bible and the dictionary, and you get a fullness of where that lies in God's world. And then so you research something, rocks, you reason it through the Bible, just like Paul would say, we reasoned through the scriptures and found this. And that's how our nation was built. That's our founders. They reasoned biblically. Then the 4th R is that you relate it to yourself. How is this affecting me? How can I be a possessor of this knowledge? How can I feel like I own this? And you create people that really have a sense of character in themselves. And then the last one is that they record what they've learned. Like me, I've been doing it in songs. But George Washington, he did it in beautiful, not only his life to the president and the commander-in-chief, but when he was a little kid, he was educated in this method, and he was drawn to the rules of civility, which was originally a French literature thing, and then it went to Spain and England. But he saw it, and it just melted his heart, and he loved that. And so he carefully, with great calligraphy, wrote it all out. In fact, everything he did, he carefully wrote it all out in his old notebooks. You can see them still today. They're in, I think, the congressional records. I'm not the Congress, but the Library of Congress. And so he loved that, and therefore he knew how to comport himself. He knew when he saw somebody to tip the hat, or how to eat in front of people, or all these kinds of things, to the point that he knew how to navigate relationships. And so, of course, everybody said, Mr. Washington, George, please be our president. George, please be our commander-in-chief. He was a born leader because early on he was given the freedom in America through his Christian mom, Mary Washington. He married a Martha, but his mommy was a Mary. That means she was close to God, and she prayed all through the Revolutionary War, and she helped him. She homeschooled him biblically. He knew Latin, all these things. Highly educated we were back then when we were more privately educated. What happened is we became publicly educated, and everything came down. The different standards come down. He says, Sir Francis Bacon says, if you read a lot, you make a man full. And if you write, if you have a man speak well, he then is a ready man. But if the man knows how to write, how to learn how to use words, that's an exact man. So these ideas of scholarship are really what gave our country the power that it had before the eroding of Marxism and the evolutionary ideas of Darwin. So I wanted to sing this song about Mary and about listening for God's word. I'm listening for your word, God, like Mary, oh Mary at your feet. And I'm longing just to hear, Lord, oh, anything you want to speak. So I'm laying down my head at the footstool of your mercy seat. And there's one thing that remains, God. It's the perfume, oh, the perfume of your name poured forth. In your mercy you answer us. In your mercy you take care of us. In your mercy you strengthen us and lift us up upon a rock that's higher than I am. Yeah, now we understand. You set us on a rock that's higher than I am. Now I understand. You hide us in your secret place all the days of our life. And our heart chooses, we want to seek your face in the beauty of your life. He sets us on a rock that's higher than I am. Yeah, now we understand. He sets us on a rock that's higher than we are when we come to him. Like Mary at his feet, wanting to hear what he has to say. That's true scholarship. That's what George did. He said, God, what am I interested? What do you want me to study? He said, I want you to study the rules of civility. You know, that's the way God works in us. He works through our desires, what you're interested in. But you have to give your self-governed individual self to Christian character. And then you use your conscience, your most sacred property, to do as you believe the Lord is showing you. And from there, we get righteous heroes that bring God's providential blessing upon the earth. So what happened in America was that these ideas of big government and public radio and public TV and public institutions, it came out of a, here in America, it came out of bad doctrine. There were these Unitarians who, just said, well, there's just a God, kind of like Islam, or Christian Science, or Jehovah's Witness. They didn't get into the full Bible, the doctrine of the Trinity, how beautiful the communing is of Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and the good Abba Father, Creator. They just started thinking about, okay, God, and we're going to be men that if we, because we're really not evil in ourselves, we can solve all the problems just by social justice and by helping poverty, getting people out of poverty, instead of realizing it was the individual and what was going on in their internal heart that made their choices. That's really where it's at, is what you and I decide to do inside. Whereas this became behavioral outcomes on the outside, and our educational system became this idea of group dynamic. Let's do it as a collective. You go to school, and you have these standards all over the country. They were called Common Core, and that's why Trump is so good that he is taking away that federal mandate and bringing it back to more locally, because the way a child is educated is individually. They can't learn from a group. They have to learn from their inside, saying, I want to learn that. And they have to be inspired by their teacher in a biblical way, that they're hearing how they are made inside. So the collective, they're more concerned about the group than they are, and they're always talking about community, the community. And so this is the answer to the well-being of a child in their idea was that we, humanitarian benevolence, inclination to the whole world and to mankind, and it puts the state and the majority cultural influence as the authority and the dominant rule instead of righteousness, instead of the individual and their personal responsibility to their family, to what is good. It ends up being a group conscience, and you lose the American idea of individual moral conscience. So the Fabians, this started even before the Fabians, but they're well known in England, and they brought over societies here that ended up being rather anti-Christian. I mean, there were these things called Christian socialists, but many of them then they didn't even want God in the public space. They don't want God in schools. They don't want God in government. And it was called the Fabian Society. And this is their logos, or their coat of arms. Look at that. They finally got rid of that, but if you look at that, it's a sheep, it's a little lamb, and a wolf in lamb's clothing. And the reason why these communist little organizations that go into labor unions and this kind of thing, the reason why they called it Fabian was that he was a Roman general, Fabulous, something like that, and he wanted to fight Hannibal. And so he did little harassments. He didn't do full-out war. He used all sorts of intrigue and harassing. And that's what communism does. That's what Marx said. Do what will bring confusion, which will take that God consciousness out of people and out of society. So that's a real teller right there, isn't it? And so many, they don't want God in the government or in schools, and yet that is what makes schools thrive, when you have a sense that God is watching you and you have to be accountable. So I wanted to end this show with a song about the Trinity. Because it's so important to know that the Father loves the Son, and we can find them in the Holy One, the Holy Spirit. Yeah, it says, oh, wind, water, and blood that comes down from above, just like the Father and the Spirit and the Son. These three agree as one. You remember what the Father did? He gave us His heavenly dove to show us His Son, in whom He so loved. And He was so well pleased. He said, we three agree. Oh, we are one. And remember what Jesus said, the glory that you gave to me, I have given it to them, that